Hey, Emma.
Yes, Madelyn.
What do you call it when your microphone breaks 30 seconds before you're supposed to record your podcast?
Hush, I don't know. What do you call it?
A little nightmare! Hello, and welcome to Talk This.
It's dangerous to podcast alone.
I'm your very low-tech host, Madelyn.
I'm your super duper high tech. No, I'm just average. I'm average at tech. Emma.
It's not really my microphone that's broken. We don't need to start a Talk This GoFundMe yet. It's just the cord that connects my microphone to my computer has frayed, which I suppose happens when you record a lot of podcasts.
Yeah.
It's like little, and like the cord is fine. It's just like the little part that connects to my microphone like broke off. So exciting. So thrilled. So apologize. Hopefully we'll be back to our regular average sound quality next week from me. I'm doing my best here. And welcome to our latest full episode, our first episode of the month. No, that's a lie. Our first full episode of the month of April.
That's true.
I'm not very good at dates.
But this week we are talking about Perfect Dark and Little Nightmares.
And before we jump in, I have to do like a little bit of a housekeeping business that would really be more at home in a side quest, but I feel bad having waited this long already. So, if you didn't know this, Emma and I are, we've been doing a lot of learning as we go on this podcast stuff.
Yeah.
Including in the designing of our websites and that sort of thing. So we have a contact form on our website. By the way, our website, www.talkthispodcast.com. If you haven't gone already, you should check it out. And so on our website, one of the things we have a contact form. And Emma set this up, so I'm going to blame her. I sort of assumed that this contact form would send us emails.
Yeah, I thought it would go to WordPress. Because there's a contact form section there.
Well, sorry, it is in WordPress.
Oh. Well, then why didn't we see it?
Anyway, so this contact form, it doesn't get a lot of use. You know, we're an indie podcast. People are generally happy with our work. We don't get complaints or anything. And so, I expected it would be emails. Apparently, Emma knew where it would go and just didn't check it. But, Clickbait Boyfriend sent us a few, jokingly sent us a few game requests for the hat. And he was like, oh, I hope you get the email. So I was expecting it to come, and it never did. So I finally went and I looked for our contact forms to figure out maybe it's going to Emma's email, her personal email, yada yada, I don't know. And I found our responses. And in addition to a few lovely spam commenters who have thoughts on duplicate content on our website and how they can help us with that. We also had a very lovely piece of fan mail from this past August.
We're really terrible.
So, Josh Wolf, if you're still out there, please, we're so sorry. Thank you for your comment. You don't understand how much it made both of our days to read it today. Your idea for a game based on Watch Dogs and Okami is brilliant. It's almost certainly better than the game we came up with.
Although I think that was a decent crossover, that episode.
Well, it was an early episode before we completely lost all skill. Josh, I hope you're still listening. We consider you one of our valued fans, if you are, or if you're not. And shoot us an email or send us another thing on the contact form.
Now that we know that it won't tell us.
Let us know.
See, the comments have a little red number beside it, so I sort of assumed if anything ever went there, there'd be a little red number.
Nope. We'll just have to check it regularly from now on.
Guess I should take WordPress off my resume.
Seriously. Anyway, you know, all I have to say basically is we're not perfect, but we appreciate our listeners, even if we're in the dark about the comments that you're sending us.
Oh,
speaking of perfect dark, that just happens to be our old game this week.
Yeah.
I don't mean to be facetious. We really do love our fans.
Yeah.
I feel so bad about this.
Yeah. We're really sorry.
Anyway. Perfect Dark. Perfect Dark is a 2000 Nintendo 64 game. Oh man, do you remember the name of the studio?
Rare.
I knew it was a 4-letter word.
Just released Sea of Thieves. Still making stuff.
Mm-hmm. One of those rare companies from, almost 20 years ago that still exists. Nice. Or that hasn't been absorbed completely.
On a pun roll.
Was that a pun?
You said one of those rare companies. She's got it so down she doesn't even realize.
Sometimes it just comes out. It's like vomit. Just sort of comes out and I feel better afterwards. Anyway, it's a 2000 game. It was released on the Nintendo 64. And it's interesting for being the very first M-rated game that Nintendo ever released. I certainly can't think of that many others. Nintendo does not release that many games that are rated M for mature.
Yeah. And No More Heroes, I guess, was probably M. Other than that, I can't think of any.
I mean, who knows what's going to happen next with Mario and Luigi and everything we're finding out about them. Oh, man. But give me the patch, right? Give me Zero Suit Mario. Just kidding, don't. Anyway, Perfect Dark is a first-person shooter, which already seems a little incongruous for Nintendo. It's a first-person shooter. It follows Joanna Dark, the name which they derived from the French pronunciation of Joan of Arc.
Yeah, Jeanne d'Arc.
Nice. See, Emma took French.
Yeah.
Well done. Mon Dieu. And Joanna Dark, okay, this game, I'm going to try to explain this plot, but there's a lot going on. So she
just give us a synopsis.
She works for, I think it's Cunningham?
I don't know.
She works, okay, so there's like it's 2023. So Carrington, that's what it is, not Cunningham, Carrington. It's 2023, so we're coming up on this, folks.
Almost there.
Get yourself ready. And Joanna Dark works for Carrington Industries, which is has a rival, like Dine something. There's 2 rival companies, one of which is evil and one of which is like sort of good, at least. There's 2 rival companies on Earth, and then there are also 2 rival alien races, one of which is aligned with the good company and one of which is aligned with the bad company. They're sort of warring, and potentially that has ramifications for Earth. And Joanna Dark, nicknamed Perfect Dark because of her perfect scores on the Carrington secret agent test. How awkward for your nickname to be perfect, but whatever. I guess we'll get into that.
Maybe it's used in a sort of disparaging way. Oh, it's Perfect Dark.
That's better. That makes more sense than it's perfect. Our friend's perfect.
My friend, we call her Perfect. Although, of course, all my friends call me that, so who am I to say
That's
anything?
really why I thought it was awkward, because I was like, we started calling Emma Perfect.
Yeah.
Before they released this game.
Anyway,
she actually only goes by Emma on the podcast.
Yeah. Everyone else calls me Perfect. But 2 rival companies aligned with 2 different alien races. And what is Joanna Dark doing?
And do you know this game? Are you asking me because I'm the expert? Oh my gosh.
You started the synopsis.
I'm sorry, I just felt it's just this moment of sheer pride because you asked me about a game and I sort of knew. So Joanna Dark is this agent who's working for Carrington Agency. She's fresh out of the program. They call her Perfect. And she's fighting this, she's trying to prevent this evil alien race from like messing stuff up on Earth, and like all this weird stuff happens. Like she has to rescue some scientist who works with this other company but it turns out it's like an AI that's been programmed to work for them, and it wants to switch because it's developed morals. But then this other company / aliens like kidnap the president, and they want to clone the president, and something gets shot down over Area 51, and eventually this company and these aliens steal, like they take a spaceship. They were trying to get the president's permission to do it, but then they were just trying to clone him so they could get the permission, and then they just steal it. I don't know why they didn't just jump to stealing it at the first place. Seems like cloning the president is a lot of trouble to go to, but we're moving right along. They steal this spaceship. Turns out on this spaceship is a weapon so powerful it could destroy planets. And so this alien race wants to test it out on Earth before they use it on their rival's homeworld. And spoiler alert for a game which is almost 20 years old, Joanna Dark, with the help of like another sort of alien agent named Elvis.
Yeah, Elvis.
Yeah, which like I hope of some relation to the real Elvis, right?
Oh my god.
I was like, that's what happened. They're right. He didn't die. But they end up, you know, making the weapon self-destruct and saving the planet.
Mm-hmm.
But not before being abducted by aliens.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah. But Perfect Dark originally began because Rare created GoldenEye 007, the game. So it was originally being developed, and it ended up, they called it a spiritual successor to GoldenEye 007. But they were planning to work on the sequel, Tomorrow Never Dies. But as they put it, they were dramatically outbid by Electronic Arts, who would release that in 1999. But because they had spent so much time in the James Bond universe and they liked it so much, they decided to make a game that was very similar in gameplay mechanics, at least, to GoldenEye. And beyond everything else, they changed the main character and added more aliens, I assume.
Yeah, one assumes.
Yeah.
I made it a woman.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, we'll have a lady Bond this time.
Yeah.
And it's widely regarded as one of the best games of all time.
Yeah.
It's so interesting to me because so many of the things that these reviewers and stuff cite as being so innovative and so like, wow. Some of them legitimately still, like, we don't see very often, and we'll talk about those, or I'll talk about those. But some of it is just like, oh, like, they have voice acting. Like,
yeah. But
you can fall off of edges.
Yeah.
That was a big thing.
That's crazy. There was no jump, though.
Yeah, I know. There was no jump. That's fine. Jump is honestly one of the most unrealistic kind of game mechanics that ever happens.
Oh, yeah. That was true, though.
Yeah, you said that so disparagingly. You were like, oh, yeah. And then you're like, no, it is true.
When I have a jump function, my character spends most of the game jumping. They skip through their adventures.
Who doesn't?
Yeah.
Another reason that I think we had talked this, despite never having played this game, right?
Yeah.
Just checking on you.
We don't. It was released, but for the Xbox 360, which we don't.
We are not an Xbox household, nor will we ever be.
Yeah, but it's not even, as far as I know, it's not even on Steam or anything. It just N64 and Xbox 360. So we never would have. We wouldn't even have the chance to play it.
Anyway, we are theoretical fans of it because it has that Talk This Gold Star approval feature. Local co-op!
Woo!
I'm afraid to say anything too loud because of my laptop, but there was excitement conveyed there. And not only does it have a local co-op, it has like extensive variety of local co-op for up to 4 players.
Mm-hmm.
Not only can you play the story mode with like a local co-op person, Velvet Dark, her sister, lame next to perfect dark, but whatever. I guess they could have called it not so perfect dark.
Yeah, average dark.
Kind of dark. But you can play the whole story mode. You can have a friend playing as enemies. Like, they get to control individual bad guys, and when they die, they respawn as another bad guy, and you don't know which one they're controlling.
That's pretty cool.
Right? Yeah. I can't think of any other games where in story mode you can have someone take control of the little baddies.
Yeah.
And it's certainly, like, a lot of the stuff I read about this was they have really intelligent, certainly at least for the time anyway, really intelligent AI. Right? Mm-hmm. They don't just charge after you, they'll hide, they'll lay in wait. But by having a friend do it, you really have intelligent AI. It's not even AI. I think it's fascinating. I think that's an interesting idea. And I sort of get why it doesn't appear in anything, right? Because you want to advance in the story mode. It just seems like a recipe for hating your friend. But also it's a creative kind of co-op that it's interesting that no one really latched on to.
Yeah.
Anyway, in addition to that, they have all sorts of games during this time period. Like, I'm thinking of Team Buddies, right? Team Buddies has all that we talked about a few weeks ago in an episode. Has all these weird multiplayer modes. I feel like games during this time were just packed with, here's another way you can play this. Like, what the heck?
Yeah.
You got a lot more bang for your buck. At least
but now we don't have
way.
Friends who come over to our houses.
That's true. That was just a grim reflection on my life, though. Perhaps not on broad social trends.
Uh-huh.
But no, you would get like 4 or 5 different multiplayer modes in games released in the early 2000s. Whereas now, if you get one that isn't online, you count yourself lucky.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting, the evolution.
Yeah. There's a lot of interesting design things they did with this. Like, apparently, they decided they made all the locations first.
I read that too.
Locations, and then they did the plot around how they would bring a person to each of these locations, which is honestly not a terrible way to do a spy thriller.
It's similar to the way that I write plays. Which is, I think of a clever title, usually involving a pun, and then I try to write a play that could conceivably fit that title. So,
yeah, but
same idea.
But really, like, for a first-person shooter spy thriller, it's not the worst idea to choose interesting locations first, and then insert the plot for interesting locations. Especially since what makes a first-person shooter interesting is if you have an interesting location that you're doing your first-person shooting in, beyond just like, well, we put down some boxes that you can hide behind. You know?
Boxland.
Yeah.
No, and that is another thing that I thought was interesting about the kind of reviews or retrospectives on this game I was reading. Some of the things they were saying were innovative, were like, you don't just shoot things. Like, you hack computers and you rescue people and like all these things that I'm like, well, yeah. But evidently it was very innovative not even very long ago.
Yeah.
Another part I wanted to talk to you about and get your opinion on, because we've talked a lot in the past few months on Talk This. One of our motifs has been about difficulty levels and difficulty systems. And Perfect Dark, actually, I thought had an interesting and what I thought you would approve of as a difficulty system. So a lot of first-person shooters, it's just like, as you up the difficulty, nothing changes except the enemies can suddenly shoot you from a mile away. Right? And like through a wall.
Yeah.
Through a tiny hole in a wall from a mile away. They suddenly have unlimited health and ammo and yada, yada, yada. Which, you know, of course increases the difficulty, but it's kind of a fake difficulty increase, right? In a lot of ways.
Yeah.
It's just amping up the power of stuff. It doesn't change the experience at all. Perfect Dark has 3 difficulty levels for everything, and it increasingly gives you more to do on each level. You have to complete more missions to finish. It'll give you sort of more context for rooms that just seemed like they were ordinary rooms before, because you'll have more to do there. What do you think about that?
What do you mean by more context?
I'm not entirely sure. Because there's more missions, you sort of get a better idea of the space that you're actually in and what its purpose is.
Yeah, I do like that. I do also have issue with difficulty systems where you don't get the full experience if you're not playing at the hardest difficulty. I do also have issue with that because I feel like in terms of story and also just like enemy types or something, you should be able to experience all of those things no matter what difficulty level you're playing at. There should just be like a different balance of stuff, which that seems like that's what that's doing, in that you get the same sorts of missions, just you get more at one time if you're playing on a harder difficulty. So that does seem good to me.
And also, the other thing I didn't mention is that once you've beaten the, like, quote-unquote, the highest difficulty level, you can customize all the sort of various difficulty kind of sliders. Right, so you could say, okay, I want the enemies to shoot at easy, but I want the most missions, and I want yada yada.
Only after you beat it at the hardest, though.
Yeah.
It feels like that should be something that's just there from the beginning.
I know.
Like, honestly, I think that's, like, one of the best ways to do difficulty is not just have a standard slider, but be like, this should be easier, because I'm terrible at this, but I'm fine at this, so this should be harder.
Would that be just impossible to write into the game, though?
I think it depends on the game. And also, no. Not for a big studio, I don't think. It would be more effort.
Yeah.
But again, it depends on the game, and it depends on how many categories you break it up into. They don't have any trouble, like, having like 7 different difficulty options overall. So I can't imagine it would be that much more trouble just to set a difficulty to like, oh, the enemies are slightly stupider, but, you know, you have less time to do things. You think of it like that.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm hoping, and that seems like it shouldn't be that hard. It seems like that kind of system should already exist. But who knows?
But it is, I imagine it might be harder for games that do feature AI of some sort. Just difficulty levels are probably harder in general when dealing with AI than it is with other stuff.
What do you mean? I personally, I don't really understand what's the difference between AI and like any other.
Well, let's use, because, you know, I just did the play this on this, but let's use Danganronpa as an example. Okay, and this is an example. So, in Danganronpa, there's 2 different difficulty sliders, in that there's a logic slider and an action slider. And there's no AI in Danganronpa because none of the other characters think for themselves. It's all a preordained script. Just the action is like, there's more obstacles when you're trying to shoot something in the trial section. And the logic is that there's more options to pick from when you're trying to shoot something in the trial section. But that has nothing to do... The other characters don't have will, if that makes sense. They don't have wills of their own. Whereas in a shooter, like Perfect Dark, the enemy characters have to think for themselves and make decisions based on what your character is doing. Right?
Yeah.
So that's an infinitely more complex system than just being like, well, we'll stick more words you have to get out of the way in front of this to make it more difficult.
No, totally. I get that. But if they have difficulty levels to begin with, like, okay, fine, we don't have a perfect slider where I can pick, oh, I want them to be 3 pi-4ths, like, difficult.
Yeah.
But being able to select, okay, from 1 to 7, how good of a shooter is this? And from 1 to 7, how well can they hear me? And from 1 to 7, how many missions do I have to complete? And my health. These seem like things that should be easily customizable.
Sure, but as I've expressed before in my opinion of difficulty levels, I don't think they do a good job of that just now with their general difficulties. Because the general difficulties are usually like, oh, they just take out half my health with one hit, or there's just a lot more of them. Like, that's how they do it. So.
Do you know what this reminds me of?
What?
My recent experience with spice levels at a dry pot restaurant.
Yeah.
Wherein last time I ordered mild spicy and it was not very spicy, and then I bumped it up to spicy and suddenly I was KO'd.
Mm-hmm.
I just want a little bit more sensitivity in my difficulties and spicinesses.
I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying that when you're dealing with AI, I imagine it's far more.
Yeah.
It's more complicated.
And not the difficulty.
And more finicky.
Not
also.
that every game you should be able to adjust the difficulty level. Right? Like, I'm all about making games accessible, but if your whole point is to make, what is it, Cuphead? Cupboy would be better.
They have cups for heads. That's why it's Cuphead.
Very uncreative.
Okay.
0 out of 10 for creativity.
Cupboy is more creative?
Yes.
Okay.
If your point is to make a game that's super hard, then sure, don't compromise on that. That's fine. That's part of the game.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like with that, you just have to say straight out, this is a really difficult game, and if you don't want that, you probably shouldn't buy it. You know? Like, you're eliminating parts of the audience that's possible, but if that's the point of your game, you have to do that. Yeah. You shouldn't, like, hide it. You shouldn't make it a surprise.
I just feel like it's rare, the game, that it's really about how difficult it is, especially these days. I think that was more common, I mean, certainly back in, like, arcade game days, right? But even when we had Nintendo Hard as a thing, you know, it was about how hard it was and how you had to work to master stuff, and that's not really what video games are about these days.
Yeah. There's a really interesting, that's only sort of tangentially related, but there's a really interesting extra credits video about how the code often has fail-safes sort of written into it, because when you're in the middle of a really tough, exhilarating boss battle, there's nothing that kills the momentum more than, like, you dying near the end of it, right? So, but it feels really great when you're real low on health, but you manage to make that final hit right before you die. And sometimes those moments are actually sort of, like, encouraged by the way the game is created.
So do you mean, like, that last little health bar is really, like, 5 health bars? Okay.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
I was worried it was going to be even more manipulative than that.
I'm sure it is in some of cases. It was a while ago that I watched it, but I thought it was super interesting.
That makes me feel dirty. It makes me feel just gross.
I always find that stuff interesting.
No, it's fascinating, but I also feel cheated because I'm not very good at video games.
Oh, see.
And they've written it for me. Like,
it's
that
like
code
the same thing
me.
with, like, spoilers. I don't care. Like, I like to know what's going to happen and the interworkings of it, you know?
Emma's literally doing, like, crab hands as she says this.
Yeah. It doesn't ruin the experience for me if I already know that what's going to happen or that the game is making this happen.
No, it's still fascinating. I just feel I'm embarrassed that they do this for people like me.
It's a little nightmare for her.
Ayo, good transition.
Wow.
Literally the same joke I made earlier, but it's fine.
I just used the words.
By the way, did y'all catch Emma's little plug for her Play This back there? We'll plug it again at the end, but you should really subscribe on YouTube. Her Play This videos are great. Talk to Sisters.
Talk to Sisters. We're going to do Iconoclasts next.
Anyway, Little Nightmares.
Yeah. So, Little Nightmares is a game that came out, I'm pretty sure, in the wake of Inside afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of capitalizing on that new desire for weird, creepy platforming experiences. but it came out on
What
all
a weird
systems.
thing. Like, creepy platforming is, like, what's in right now. How weird. Anyway, go ahead.
Came out on all systems, on the Switch later than the rest of them, obviously.
As usual.
In April 2017. And it's a, very, not very clear story, but you play as Six, who is a little girl who is hungry. She has a cute little raincoat. She's trapped in the ship called the Maw, which is a vessel that sort of has a bunch of weird, creepy creatures in it. And as Six, she wakes up in a cage and escapes the cage and tries to make her way through the ship and meets a whole bunch of really super creepy looking characters.
And eats them.
She doesn't eat all of them, though.
Some of them, though.
Yeah.
Anyway, continue.
No, but you start, you meet the janitor who has these really long arms that sort of reach out and follow you, and then she meets the chef who's sort of big and fat. They all sort of look like really wrong claymation, if that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah. Which it contributes to the creepy atmosphere. And she ends up, making her way through the ship and discovering more of what's going on there and why she's there.
And she's hungry a lot, which is mostly what I identify with the character. Periodically, she gets so hungry, she destroys people around her, which I think we all have been there.
Yeah.
Some of us more often than others.
Yeah. And I think this is fine for a game that's meant to pretty much be a horror game. Because I feel like, and I'm not a big fan of horror in the first place, but I feel like a lot of scary horror is usually better when they're not focusing on telling a story. If that makes sense.
Yeah, more on jump scare.
I don't want to know
scare.
the origins of the monster.
Well, this is an interesting week to be discussing this, as one of my favorite actors, John Krasinski, has just released an interesting horror film, which is very story-based, I think, or certainly high concept.
Yeah, but I didn't think it went into, what the monster was.
Yeah, I don't really know. It's they're like aliens or something.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's called A Quiet Place, which means you have to be quiet.
Yeah, well, they'll eat you. They'll eat you if you do make sound.
Yeah. I know that much. But I feel like a lot of stuff that's scary lets the atmosphere tell more of the story. And even as I'm saying this, I'm thinking of places where that's not true. But it's at least one approach that I think works in the horror genre that might be more annoying in other genres.
Yeah, we just have to create a good atmosphere. Well, but isn't that similar in a lot of ways to what they did in Perfect Dark? They said, we're going to pick the settings, we're going to set up an atmosphere, and we're going to figure out a story that goes with that. Now, granted, they had to come up with a lot more plotting than you might have to for a horror movie, because it's sci-fi and it's not sci-fi horror, and we need to understand what's going on, and also it was 2000, and we had a little less tolerance for these games that don't tell us literally anything, right? Mm-hmm. But I feel like it's a similar approach. Just in horror, you can get away with it a little more if you can create the right atmosphere. Yeah.
I mean, there is no voiced cutscenes in Little Nightmares either. There's no voice acting or any sort of oral
A-U-R-A-L?
Yeah. Or I guess oral storytelling either.
Yeah,
O-R-A-L.
either way.
It's all, or written storytelling, really. It's all visual. Actually, I think maybe there is some written storytelling.
What about taste?
But it's mostly visual.
Nothing. Never mind.
But I feel like you get it's simple enough. Even if you don't understand why something's happening, you sort of understand what is happening.
Sure, we go to see horror movies. It's about the purpose of people who play horror movies or people who play horror games, right? Whereas most games
Hmm.
are well, and I feel like games even more viscerally, right? We play games for specific reasons because we want to do specific things. With
Hmm.
movies, I feel like a lot of the time we go and we do expect some kind of a story, no matter what genre it is. But with games,
Hmm.
I feel like we haven't quite reached that point yet, right?
Hmm.
So I play a multiplayer racing game when I want something kind of mindless and I want to play it with my friends. Or I play a first person shooter when I'm feeling like I want, well, like I'm sad and I'm not very good at anything and I just want to reinforce that. Just kidding. Um, when I want sort of a technical challenge, and I play Civilization when I want to lose 5,000 hours.
Uh-huh.
And I play a horror game when I want to be scared.
Yeah.
Um, and I think we do that. I think television is another medium in which that's frequently like we select our television shows because we have a mood we want them to put us in,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
we have our shows that we watch when we don't even really want to watch TV and we just want something on in the background, or we have shows that we watch when we're sad and we want to be comforted, and we have shows that we watch when we're sad and we want to feel worse,
Hmm.
or shows that we want to watch because we feel smart and with it when we watch them.
Hmm.
And I think that video games provide that even in a more active way. Anyway,
Yeah.
all of this to say, horror gets away without much plot because people don't come for the plot most of the time. They come for that feeling.
Yeah. And Little Nightmares definitely provides that creepy feeling.
I got creeped out just reading the synopsis. The downloadable content?
It's creepy.
What the heck?
It's creepy.
In the DLC, you play as a little boy,
The kid.
the kid, who's also in this world, and like sort of sees like kind of shadows Six in a lot of ways, and you see the stuff she's been doing, and then something horrible happens.
Well, we won't spoil it for you.
It's horrible. I did not enjoy seeing how the sausage gets made.
Hmm.
Get it?
But yeah, I get it. I understand. But I think that, as I said, since Inside, there's been this sort of demand for creepier kinds of games. I think that's partially because in the industry for a while, I think there's been like the idea that especially like since Resident Evil 4 probably did so well, but like the horror genre is really just like the action genre with monsters and jump scares, as opposed to really being horror, which like in the heyday of like Silent Hill
Right.
type horror. But since then, it's become mostly action type horror. And even now, the latest Resident Evil has attempted to go back to being slightly creepier, as opposed to being just like pretty much a third person shooter, except with like zombie dogs.
Nice. Zombie dogs.
Yeah. So there's been more of these creepy stuff.
Well,
and platforming's a good way. A platformer game is a good way to do it because there's a certain amount of powerlessness because you don't really have any resources beyond just working with the environment around you. So there's this sort of panic because you have no way to defend yourself from any incoming threats beyond, trying to figure out how things work to save you.
And I think that video games, I mean, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this as well, but to me, video games seem like the medium for telling a horror story.
Yeah.
You're so involved in it, it puts you in it even more than you can be in the movie chair and whatever. And this is why I'm especially, like, I'm not going to go see A Quiet Place, but I read an interesting think piece about it. It's like, if you're going to see it, you have to see it in the movie theater, because that experience of silence is so important.
Yeah.
And like video games, I feel like in a lot of ways. So like in most traditional horror, we're just watching people and there's jump scares and whatever, and we want to put ourselves in their shoes, and that's why we get scared. But in a movie, that's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that hard. We know how to do it. we are people that watch movies. We're not afraid of the train coming out of the screen.
Yeah.
But it's in video games, you're even more connected, and so it seems like naturally adapted for this kind of storytelling.
Yeah.
Now, just doing action games that have jump scares feels cheap to me, and it seems like we should find more creative ways to do this. And some games are, certainly. What happened to Edith? She has a last name, but
Finch. I don't know if that would... What Remains of Edith Finch. I don't know if that's a horror game.
Is it not a horror game?
I would not classify it as a horror game. Might be a little creepy.
Well,
it's definitely about death.
Sure. So it's not a horror game. That's fair to say. I'm not an expert. I have not really played this game, but certainly it does something different with mechanics that I feel like you could do with a horror game. That might potentially be more pure horror. Or, so when I went to a playcrafting event in New York at the Microsoft Store. It feels like it wasn't that long ago, but it was almost certainly November or so, where I did some VR games. And one of them
I think VR is a godsend for anybody who wants to make a horror experience.
Oh man, it wasn't even very high tech or very good, but I was freaked out. Yeah.
I mean, VR and for example, Hellblade just did a whole lot with what's it called when the sound is placed somewhere in your headphones? Binaural audio?
I know what you're talking about. You've described it, but I don't remember what it's called.
Yeah, but you have to, in Hellblade, you have to play with headphones, or else you're not getting the full experience. And Hellblade is kind of a horror-like game, in that it will wig you out. And what's really super wiggy about it is like when they place a voice like right like behind your ear, kind of like you can feel it in like your jawbone, where your neck meets your jawbone. Yeah, and like that is super effective. So like a VR game where you can place the sound wherever you want, like that, someone's gonna do that, and it's gonna be a wild success, I'm sure.
Oh, there's your free Talk This advice of the day. Industry trends.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people should, like, after playing Hellblade, like, a lot more people, and it's annoying to have to play with headphones.
Well, sometimes. You know, as Apple forces us away from wired headphones.
Yeah. But the way they did that with the sound, I was like, I wish more games did this, because it really did add to the experience.
It must be tremendously difficult to, like, record that. I wouldn't have any idea how you do that.
I think there's, for one, special mics, and two, like, I watched some dev diaries, so, like, sometimes they would, like, walk in a circle while recording. For when it was supposed to move to different places. But I think there's just special mics and settings.
Well, maybe I'll order a special mic to replace this one. And our next Talk This will just be a horror adventure. Yeah. Next side
Along
quest.
with that extra credit episodes, I do recommend the Ninja Theory dev diaries for Hellblade, because they're super fascinating.
Post them on our social media.
For sure.
I almost launched right into our social media plug. But this is as good a time as any to come up with our brand new game, which I have already titled. Woo! It's titled Perfect Dark Little Nightmares.
Woo!
It just matches up so nicely this week.
Yeah. So what is... It's like you're writing a play. You came up with a great title. Now what's it about, Madelyn?
Okay. So something I didn't talk about Perfect Dark that I want to incorporate in this game just because it's ridiculous is... Perfect Dark does not run on the Nintendo 64, like, as it comes out of the box. You have to get what's called the expansion pack, PAK, which increases the RAM of the system.
Oh, yeah, because they had so many cutscenes, right?
They had so many cutscenes, they had so much stuff.
Yeah. And even then, the frame rate was like what people disliked.
Yeah, it was terrible. So I need a game that is so huge. We need an expansion pack for a modern system.
Oh my gosh. I don't think that's even. I mean, you can buy bigger hard drives for your systems, but I don't even know if that's possible anymore.
It's playable with 32 people, local co-op.
Oh my god. You could not make a game that's so big it would take up the entirety of a PlayStation 4.
Try me.
Persona 5 doesn't take up the entirety of a PlayStation 4.
Try me. Fine. Never mind then. I'm mostly kidding about that, but I had done that research and I wanted to show off my knowledge.
It'd be good for marketing.
Right?
Real good, a hook. This game's so big.
You have to buy an extra thing. You have to pay us more money.
Gamers be like, whoa, why is it so big? Oh my goodness. That's how gamers sound. That's how I sound.
Why don't we do the whole podcast in that voice?
Whoa! Perfect Dark's about a girl named Joanna Dark. But they call it Perfect.
Okay,
tell us more about Perfect Little Nightmares.
It's gonna be called Mediocre Nightmares. It's a horror game that's not very scary. I'm just basing it off titles now. I need to actually use game mechanics.
Yeah, Perfect Dark Little Nightmares.
Okay, so I just want to poach mechanics that I need to include. So I think it has to be a shooter. Mm-hmm. And it has to be sci-fi, because both of them are kind of alternate worldy.
Yeah.
I want to incorporate the hunger. It's like dark overcooked.
Where you murder the other chef when they do badly.
I already do that. That's already what I do.
Oh my god.
I give Josh a disappointed look, and I'm like, we need to stick to our strategy. Yeah.
But yeah, no, there's the co-op mechanic of Perfect Dark, right? Where he plays the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you're secretly one of the chefs, but you're super hungry, so you're trying to sabotage other chef by eating all the food before they can serve it.
This seems to have very little to do with Perfect Dark, though.
And also you shoot them.
Okay, so it requires local co-op. Local co-op is required for this game.
No, but also you're an alien. You're alien chefs.
That's what I was gonna say. So you and a friend, it requires local co-op. That's why I'm taking the expansion pack thing. You literally cannot play it on your own. You need to play it with a friend. Mm-hmm. It's required.
Like A Way Out.
Whatever that is, sure. You can't throw random games at me, Emma. I'm not that smart. Okay. So you and a friend, one of you plays as the good aliens, and one of you plays as the bad aliens. Mm-hmm. And you have to play local co-op. Like, you have to. Mm-hmm. And you're working against each other to eat the most worlds.
Worlds?
Or, like, eat the most, like, world leaders or something.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Like, they clone the president and stuff.
Okay.
I've got to start here. You got to help me.
So, you want to eat the world leaders. And you do this by solving platforming puzzles.
You have to get the world leaders into your, like, prison chef world where you can, like, prepare them. They have to be marinated and stuff. You have to get them to the right place.
So you solve platforming puzzles to sort of cook the presidents.
Right, but you also there's also
leaders.
A first-person shooter component wherein you have to, like, sneak in and, like, eliminate the guards and actually capture the presidents.
I don't know if you need the first-person shooter part.
I'm trying to make a massive game here, but you're right. Okay. We can eliminate it.
So you have to do that faster than the other person. But if you're playing on a harder difficulty, you run into more, like, sort of side mission type things.
I have an idea.
Yes, Madelyn.
I have an idea.
She's raising her hand.
Okay, I've got it. So so there's like a start out like race to capture the world leader, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whoever gets it first, they're doing platform puzzles to prepare the world eater to be eaten. The world eater, I said. The world leader to be eaten.
You were the world leader.
Dang. That's not a bad name. Anyway. Well, the other person is in a first-person shooter mode, infiltrating your base to capture the president, or whatever.
Oh, I see.
And it switches back and forth. And you might be able to, like, snatch it out. It's like, if I have it 95% prepared, but you, like, get in and snatch it, you just have to do that last, like, plating it.
Oh. That's pretty neat.
That sounded like you don't actually think it's neat.
No, I really think so. That's pretty cool.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's called World Eaters. World Eatership.
Yeah. The only issue, unfortunately, is the split screen limitation.
It's on the Nintendo Switch. You play on 2 Switches.
Oh, okay. Okay, I see. There you go. Never mind.
I just pulled that out of my butt. It's a lot
of stuff to do. It's a lot of stuff to do on a split screen.
It's Nintendo, because Nintendo is once again coming back to a mature rated game here.
Oh yeah.
You can play it with skins. So instead of world leaders, you're capturing classic Nintendo characters.
Yes, Cook Mario. It's a me, Mario Waffles.
That was terrible.
Mario Roni. That's better.
Marinara.
Marionera.
Yeah. Anyway.
Luigi Linguini.
Oh my god. Maybe no, because that's another thing. They were originally in Perfect Dark using the Game Boy camera, going to allow you to like take photos of yourself and like put yourself into the game.
Oh my gosh.
And they decided that would not be good.
Yeah, that might have looked pretty bad already. Can't imagine the graphics were great on the N64, but trying to take a real photo and
expansion pack.
Yeah, but trying to take a real photo and superimpose that on a character's face would probably have, in the internet era, would have made for some great memes. But alas, it was pre that time.
So we should definitely have that functionality, if only for the memeability.
Yes. I feel like all games need a memeability department that like make sure there's something in your game that's memeable.
Yeah.
So that it can be proliferated through the internet.
I wish, man. Make my Instagram job easier.
That should really, as a marketing person, that should really be the marketing person's main function.
Memes.
Are we making sure that this game has memes?
It's vital. It's vital for the children.
It really is. For the children. Meme for the children, folks.
Are we ready? Are we ready to say? I've like set up my social media transition.
Yes. You do that while I grab the hats.
Great. So I think Emma's going to take out her headphones. This means she can't hear anything that I'm saying. So I have all the power. I could tell bad jokes this time. I won't, though. We've already subjected you to Luigi Linguini. Anyway, if you love our bad sense of humor, and tidbits about video games and episodes and whatnot, you should follow us on social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all at Talk the Sisters. There you can find the memes that the kids love so much, not to mention us kids. And you can also read this, you can find blog posts, you can find all sorts of great content. Every once in a while we live tweet some games we're playing. It's great fun. So you should follow us. You should also check us out on YouTube. Emma talked a little bit about her Play This series. Her latest episode is on Danganronpa V3. I think I actually said Danganronpa right. I didn't even need you.
I heard you. Danganronpa.
Oh, I didn't say it right.
Yeah, you said Ronpa. Ron.
Oh, well. Her latest episode is on that. So you should tune into our YouTube and check it out. She's also got one on gameplay as storytelling in the tutorial of Kingdom Hearts. What's coming up next month, Emma?
I think it'll probably be Iconoclasts.
Cool. Also, there.
I think it'll be a combination of the parts where gameplay works and the parts where it doesn't.
Oh, well, that'll be exciting. We haven't gone into the negative aspect yet.
Mm-hmm.
And also, you can catch... I haven't been as frequent at updating it lately because I've been working on Friday nights and not getting ahead, but soon we'll be getting more regular postings of our Flashback Fridays series, which are 5-minute snippets of our old episodes. We have quite the back catalog now, so you should check those out if you wanted to get a taste of what you've missed. You should also check out our website, www.talkthispodcast.com. There we have a contact form, which we do actually check now. So you can get in touch with us that way, or at our email, which is talktous@talkthispodcast.com. You can also, on our website, check out our blog, where Emma writes nice little episode kind of blurbs each week, as well as several long-running blog series. We have Buzz This, an entry of which just went up this past week, I think, about Overwatch and which Overwatch character I am. I'm going to take another one of those this coming week, so look out for that.
I did one. I got Zendaya.
Cool. Isn't Zendaya a pop star?
Oh, maybe that's not her name.
Or an actress?
Starts with a Z. It's the robot.
Cool. We're really revealing ourselves as real gamers here. You can also see Clickbait Boyfriend. There's a new Clickbait Boyfriend post coming out in the next couple of days, featuring Moogles and Mulan. Let's see, what else? Emma's going to be starting up a new Watch This, my long dormant Watch This series.
I will be talking about the Persona 5, the animation. Every 2 episodes, I'll be putting one up on those 2 episodes. I just watched the first one on Saturday, and it was good! I really thought it was going to be really awful.
Emma sent me like 3 texts in a row saying, it was good. It was good.
I really thought it was going to suck. And, like, it's not going to be great because they're trying to compress 80 hours.
Save it for the blog,
of a game
Emma. Save
into 25 episodes. But it was good.
You should check out our latest post on Reigns Her Majesty and our thoughts on that game in swipe left, swipe right form, featuring some memeable cards.
Yep. And there'll be eventually 10 thoughts in 10 hours for Ni no Kuni 2, and I think 8 thoughts for 8 years of development for Iconoclasts.
Nice. I think I got all the social media channels. So Emma, do you want to pick our new game and old game for our next full episode?
We're going to start with the old game. Madelyn, you tell me when.
When?
Devil May Cry.
Nice.
Nice timing. I think they just released the HD collection.
I'm pretty good at that.
This one will sound weird because it also has jewelry in it for unrelated reasons. Tell me when.
Pick it.
Oh, I picked an earring. Oh, okay. Neo.
Awesome. I'm excited.
That will be a hard crossover.
It always is. This week we did pretty well. So if you're interested in hearing our full episode about Devil May Cry and Neo, you should subscribe to us. We're on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, and Google Play. In addition to, you can find it on our website at talkthispodcast.com/episodes. Subscribe, tell your friends, rate, review, post about us. We love to hear from listeners, even if it takes us sometimes 9 months to get back to your feedback.
Yeah.
And I think that's all I have to say. Join us next Sunday for a side quest. I'm starting to itch to shake up the side quest format again, but probably not for the next month or so, at least.
Yeah, we have to think about it.
Yeah. So if you have thoughts on other side quest ideas you'd like us to do, give us a shout on our comment page. Emma, do you want to do the sign off this week?
I hope you have a little daydream.
That was so sweet.